People think the Freemasons are just a secret club, men in suits trading handshakes and whispers of power, but that's the surface. Beneath the symbols and polished floors lies something older, something that breathes. If you ever stepped into one of their real lodges, you wouldn't last a day. I learned that when I was invited to film what they called a private gathering. The offer came through a quiet email with no signature, only coordinates. I thought it was a joke. By midnight, I was driving through fog-choked woods toward a building that shouldn't have existed on any map. The lodge stood alone, hidden behind oak trees that twisted toward the stars. The air around it felt heavier, not cold, just thick, like breathing through water. The door was carved from blackened wood, its center marked by a compass and eye symbol that shimmered faintly in the dark. When I moved, it didn't. It watched me. A man opened the door before I could knock. He was tall, wearing a navy robe threaded with gold geometry. "You're welcome here," he said softly, "but understand, what you see cannot be unseen." His name was Master L. Inside, candlelight revealed stone pillars engraved with patterns that seemed to ripple when I looked too long. The air smelled of iron and dust. As we walked, the candles didn't flicker. Their flames leaned, stretching in the same direction, as though drawn by a silent wind. I asked where it led. "Not down," he said. "Beneath." The staircase narrowed as we descended. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. At the bottom waited a metal door with no handle, only the all-seeing eye surrounded by concentric rings of sigils. Master L pressed his palm to the engraving and whispered in a language that made the hair on my arms rise. The metal vibrated, once, twice, and opened by itself. The chamber beyond was circular, enormous and alive. Veins of gold ran through the black stone walls, pulsing faintly in rhythm with that hidden heartbeat. In the center stood a triangular altar made of mirrored glass, surrounded by 3 rings carved into the floor. One of sand, one of salt, one of ash. In the sand were barefoot prints, still fresh, though no one else was there. "This is where we learn," he murmured, "where we keep the light contained." I thought he meant philosophy, until the walls exhaled. The sound was slow, heavy, unmistakable, the inhale and exhale of something vast. The candles stretched taller, their flames bending toward the center. Then the hum began, low, harmonic, filling my skull until my vision blurred. Shapes stirred in the corners, tall and thin, their outlines bending light like heat waves. One slid forward, its face was stretched too long, eyes black with a rim of gold that shimmered like liquid metal. "Don't look at it," the master warned. "They see through attention." But I already had. The thing tilted its head, studying me. A whisper filled my ears. Dozens of voices speaking my name in perfect unison. My knees buckled. The master's hand clamped my shoulder. "Focus," he said, "or it will notice." He led me toward the altar. In the mirrored surface, I saw not our reflections, but dozens of others. Faces, symbols, hands pressed against glass from the inside. The reflections pulsed like veins of light. "These are the keepers," he said, "the reason we exist, the ones we contain." My pulse hammered. The mirror wasn't just reflecting, it was watching back. A ripple crossed its surface, and for an instant my own reflection smiled when I didn't. Behind us, the walls began to move again, the black stone flexing like muscle under skin. Shadows multiplied along the pillars, stretching upward until they formed figures that didn't belong to any person in the room. They turned their heads in perfect synchrony toward me. The master slammed his palm on the altar. The mirror cracked down the center, splitting the hum into silence. For one breath, everything froze. Even the air stopped moving. He turned to me, eyes pale with fear. "Now you understand," he whispered. "No outsider lasts a day. The lodge knows who doesn't belong." We left without another word. The door sealed behind us with a thud that echoed through my bones. Outside, the night air felt thin, fake, like breathing through someone else's dream. I drove home shaking, replaying every sound in my head, the hum, the whispers, the breathing stone. I told myself it was hallucination, stress, exhaustion, but when I reached my bathroom, I saw it, faint and glowing behind my reflection in the mirror, the same compass and eye symbol from the lodge. It pulsed slowly, perfectly timed with my heartbeat. I tried wiping it away. It didn't fade. I turned off the light. It stayed. That's when I realized the ritual hadn't ended when I left. It had marked me. Now every night, when the house falls silent, the air thickens again. The walls hum. Soft at first, then louder until I can't tell if the sound is in my head or in the world itself. And when I glance at the mirror, my reflection doesn't always move with me. Sometimes it's already waiting, smiling, like it knows something I don't. For 3 days, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that sound again, the hum from the lodge, low and constant, vibrating through the walls of my apartment, like it was coming from inside the structure itself. The compass and eye symbol in the mirror never stopped glowing. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat, and sometimes it flickered, as if something was blinking behind the glass. I told myself it was trauma, that my mind was reacting to what I'd seen, but when I covered the mirror with a blanket, the pattern appeared on the wall instead, faintly seared into the paint. I could feel heat radiating from it. Whatever it was real. The 4th night, I recorded it. I set up my camera facing the mirror, left the room dark, and waited in silence. Around 3:02 a.m., the sound started again, a low hum at first, then a deep, resonant vibration that shook the camera slightly. The reflection flickered, my own image distorted, stretching unnaturally, eyes darkening until they became 2 golden circles of light. I watched the footage over and over, trying to convince myself it was an optical illusion. But then, at the very end, I heard it whisper, "Return what you took." I hadn't taken anything. At least, I didn't think I had. But when I checked the pocket of the coat I wore that night, I found a small stone wrapped in red thread, the same kind of thread I'd seen tied around the pillars in the lodge. I hadn't put it there. By morning, I decided to go back, not to the master he'd warned me never to return, but to the lodge itself. I needed answers. The road leading there felt different this time, longer, almost as if space itself was stretching. The woods were silent again, the same oppressive stillness pressing down on me. When I reached the iron gate, it was already open. The lock was snapped in half, and the symbol carved into the metal seemed fresh, as if it had just been burned there. Inside, the hallways were darker than before. Dust filled the air. The candles were gone. It didn't look like a place that had been used recently. It looked abandoned, but the floor, the black and gold marble floor, was clean. Too clean. I found the staircase leading down. Every step groaned like it was exhaling air. The moment my foot touched the bottom, I heard it again. The heartbeat, slow, heavy, alive. The metal door stood open, the same faint pulse of golden light leaking through. I stepped inside. The chamber had changed. The mirrored altar was repaired, spotless as if it had never shattered. The circles of sand, salt, and ash were gone. In their place was a single spiral carved into the stone, glowing faintly red. I took out the stone from my pocket. The hum grew louder. The spiral began to pulse in sync with the object in my hand. Something inside the mirror shifted. At first, it was just shadow, but then faces appeared. Dozens of them, distorted, pressed against the glass from the inside, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. I stumbled backward, but the reflection followed me, moving independently of my body. That's when I saw him, the master. His reflection appeared beside mine in the mirror, but when I turned around, he wasn't there. "You shouldn't have come back," his voice echoed, distant but clear. "You brought it with you." "What is it?" I shouted. "What did I bring?" He didn't answer immediately. The sound of the heartbeat grew louder, Faster. The walls began to breathe again, each pulse sending dust falling from the ceiling. "The lodge doesn't release what it touches," he finally said. "When you stepped inside, it marked you as part of the covenant. That mark connects you to them, the keepers. They feed on awareness. The more you think about them, the closer they come." My chest tightened. The golden glow from the mirror expanded across the floor, spreading like veins of light toward my shoes. I threw the stone toward the altar, and the hum erupted into a deafening roar. The mirror cracked, not shattered this time, but fractured like spiderwebs across the surface. Through those cracks, I saw movement, something crawling just beneath the glass, long and thin, its hands pressing outward. "Run," the master said. His voice wasn't human anymore, distorted, layered with whispers, "before it recognizes you." I turned and bolted up the stairs. Behind me, I heard the sound of glass shattering, followed by something that didn't sound like a scream, but like air being torn apart. The heartbeat turned into a thunderous pounding that echoed through the entire building. When I burst out into the night, the forest wasn't there anymore. The trees had moved, the road was gone. All around me was a spiraling pattern carved into the ground, enormous, stretching into the dark. And at its center, the lodge stood perfectly still, pulsing like a living organ. I ran until my legs gave out. When I finally reached the edge of the woods, I turned back once. The building was gone, just empty ground, smooth as glass. By the time I made it home, dawn was breaking. The hum had stopped, but the mark on the mirror was still there, brighter now, burning faintly through the glass. And my reflection, it was smiling. That day, my phone rang. No caller ID. I answered, and a familiar voice whispered, "You can't run from what sees you. The mark is only the beginning." The line went dead. That night I dreamed of the chamber again. The spiral of light, the faces behind the mirror, the crawling figure that moved through reflections. But when I woke up, there were muddy footprints on my floor, leading from the mirror to the window, and written across the glass, faint but visible in the morning light, were words etched in dust, "Return beneath." That's when I finally understood what the master meant. The lodge wasn't a place, it was a boundary, a cage built to contain whatever lives between worlds, and by crossing it, I hadn't just seen what was inside. I'd opened the door for it to see me. By the third night, sleep was impossible. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to pulse with that same faint rhythm, the heartbeat of the lodge. The symbol in my mirror glowed even brighter now, flickering like candlelight trapped behind the glass. And sometimes, when I stared too long, my reflection blinked after I did. I covered every mirror in the house, windows too, but it didn't matter. The reflections started appearing in other places, the surface of my coffee, the black screen of my phone, even the shine of my car's windshield. Wherever I looked, there it was, that faint compass and eye mark burning faintly watching me. The humming began to follow me outside. It was low and distant, like the drone of power lines, but I could feel it in my bones. Streetlights flickered when I walked beneath them. Strangers turned to look at me with hollow, unfocused eyes, as if they recognized something I couldn't see. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I needed to talk to Master L again. He had warned me, yes, but he'd also opened that door. If anyone knew how to undo whatever this was, it would be him. The number from that first invitation still sat in my email history. I dialed it. Static answered. Then faintly, a voice. "You shouldn't call this line," it whispered. "Master L?" I asked. "I think I brought something back from the lodge." There was a pause, a soft crackle, then the voice replied, "If you can still hear the hum, it already knows your name." The line went dead. That evening, I noticed something new, a faint sound beneath the hum, a rhythm, like chanting, echoing just beyond hearing range. It grew louder when I got near reflective surfaces. I recorded it and played the audio back slowed down. The voices were saying the same word over and over, beneath. That night I dreamed of the lodge again, but this time it wasn't underground. It was above me, suspended in the air like a massive black heart, its golden veins throbbing. Figures moved inside it, faceless, draped in robes. One of them turned toward me and spoke without lips. "You opened the mirror, now it opens you." I woke up gasping. My hands were shaking. But when I turned on the light, the mark from the mirror was burned faintly into my skin, the compass and I etched across my palm like a scar. The humming became louder, sharper, vibrating through the furniture. Then I heard a knock on my door, 3 slow taps. I froze. When I looked through the peephole, no one was there. But outside, across the street, I saw them. 3 men standing in robes identical to the ones from the lodge, faces hidden, hands clasped. And behind them, faint and shifting in the air, a 4th figure that didn't cast a shadow. It was tall, its outline bending the light exactly like the thing I'd seen in the ritual chamber. The humming grew unbearable. The walls themselves seemed to flex. Every light in the room flickered until only darkness remained, except for one faint golden glow coming from under my bathroom door. The mirror. It was uncovered. I hadn't touched it, and from behind the door came the sound of breathing, slow, deep, human, but wrong. I picked up the nearest thing I could find, a lamp, and pushed the door open. The light inside was dim, golden, and the air thick with that same metallic smell from the lodge. The mirror no longer showed my reflection. Instead, it showed the chamber, the triangular altar, whole again, its mirrored surface rippling like water. Something was standing in front of it, a shadow of me, featureless, head tilted. It raised its hand, and my palm burned. The mark on my skin began to glow, the lines shifting and rearranging themselves into a spiral. My reflection stepped closer to the glass. I backed away, but it mirrored every motion half a second late. The delay wasn't random. It was thinking, then it smiled. Not my smile, something else's. And from its mouth came the whisper that had haunted me for nights. "Return beneath." The lights in the bathroom burst. The mirror cracked outward, spiderweb lines spreading across its surface, but it didn't shatter. Instead, the cracks began to widen, each one glowing gold like molten metal. Behind the glass, I saw movement, hands pressing from the other side, faces forming out of shadow. I stumbled out, slamming the door behind me, but the hum didn't stop. It grew louder, shaking the walls, rattling dishes, making every reflection shimmer. The glass picture frames on the walls began to vibrate, one by one, until the images inside them started to move. Every photo that contained me, birthdays, friends, family, now showed that faint mark burned into my chest. And behind me, the bathroom door opened on its own. I turned just once, enough to see the golden light spilling out, swirling into the air like smoke, curling across the floor toward me. In that glow, shapes began forming, tall silhouettes with no faces, the same beings I'd seen in the chamber. They weren't trapped in the lodge anymore. The lodge was now inside my home. I ran outside. The night air hit me like ice, but the humming followed, faint at first, then all around me. Every window on the street glowed faintly gold. My neighbors stood motionless behind their glass, eyes shining, watching me without blinking. And above it all, at the edge of the clouds, I saw it, the compass and eye symbol burning faintly across the sky, massive and alive, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The mark on my palm burned hotter. That's when I understood. The lodge doesn't stay buried in stone or ritual. It moves, it inhabits. Every secret chamber, every reflection, every witness, they're all extensions of the same thing. And once it marks you, you don't walk away from the Freemasons. They walk through you. For 2 days I didn't step outside. I taped every mirror, covered every reflective surface, and unplugged every light in the apartment. But it didn't stop the humming. It was inside the walls now, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat, faint but constant, like the sound of something waiting. The mark on my hand had spread up my arm. What began as a compass and eye was now an intricate web of glowing lines, each one pulsing faintly gold under my skin. I couldn't touch it without feeling warmth, like the faint burn of a living ember. I barely ate. I barely moved. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the lodge, the altar, the mirrors, the spiral beneath the stone. And sometimes I saw my reflection standing in that room without me, whispering words I couldn't understand. On the third night, I decided to leave. I didn't know where to go, only that I had to get away from anything that could reflect. I grabbed my keys, covered my right arm in a sleeve, and stepped into the cold. The streets were empty. The hum was louder outdoors. Streetlights flickered in sequence as I passed beneath them one by one, as if something invisible was moving just ahead of me. I kept my eyes down, but even the puddles on the ground glowed faintly gold. That's when I saw the car, parked across from my building, the same black sedan I'd seen outside the lodge weeks ago. Its engine wasn't running, but the headlights were on, dim, flickering like candlelight. A man stepped out, tall, hooded, the same gold geometry stitched across his robe. I froze. "You've been marked," he said. "You opened the mirror." "Then tell me how to stop it," I said, my voice breaking. "Tell me what it wants." He stepped closer. His face was pale, eyes sunken, but when the light caught them, they glowed faintly gold. "It doesn't want. It remembers." "What does that mean?" He looked up at the sky. The clouds above were shifting, swirling into a faint spiral, the same shape carved into the floor of the lodge. "The Freemasons don't summon gods," he said quietly. "We contain the remnants of the old ones, the fragments of something that built before men learned to speak. It sleeps beneath the lodges, beneath everyone ever built. The rituals are seals. The geometry is a cage. And me? You broke the symmetry." Before I could speak again, the hum turned into a deep, thunderous pulse. The streetlights went out all at once. The air thickened, vibrating so hard I felt it in my teeth. The man turned, looking down the road. From the far end of the street, the shadows began to move. They weren't cast by light. They were moving on their own, stretching across the pavement, rising into tall, faceless forms. They shimmered faintly, their outlines bending the air. The man grabbed my arm. His hand burned against the mark. "It's too late for distance," he said. "The reflection has become a doorway." The glow beneath my skin spread to his fingers. He recoiled in pain, but it was already happening, light pouring from my veins, golden and alive. My vision blurred, my hearing dimmed. For a moment everything froze, then the world cracked open. I was no longer standing on the street. I was beneath it. An enormous chamber surrounded me, the same circular design as the lodge, only this time the walls stretched miles high, carved with shifting sigils that burned like molten metal. Above me, suspended in the darkness, was a shape. Massive, pulsating, half organic, half geometric, its veins of gold ran like rivers across the ceiling. Beneath it figures knelt, thousands of them all facing upward, robes torn, hands raised in silent devotion. Their faces were empty, mouths sealed shut. Their chests glowed faintly with the same mark as mine. I heard a voice, not through sound, but inside my mind. "You looked into our light. Now you belong to it." I stumbled backward, staring at the glowing veins across the floor. They converged at the center of the chamber, at the altar, and there, standing before it, was me, or rather, the reflection of me. It smiled, the same delayed movement I'd seen before. "We built the lodges to hold it," it said, its voice layered, distorted. "But every few generations, one mind must cross over to keep the seal alive." My throat went dry. "You mean a sacrifice?" The reflection nodded. "A vessel." The mark on my arm burned white-hot. I screamed. The light spread across my body, crawling like veins of fire. The reflection reached out its hand, and I felt my body pulled forward, drawn by something stronger than gravity. When our hands touched, everything went silent. No hum, no breathing, just stillness. Then in that silence, a single whisper filled my head, a phrase repeated over and over. The light must always have a keeper. The reflection smiled wider. The chamber began to collapse inward, the golden veins folding like closing petals. My vision blurred into gold and black, my consciousness fading. And in that final moment before darkness, I saw what no one should ever see, the thing beneath the light. It wasn't a god. It wasn't a demon. It was the sum of every human soul that had ever sworn an oath in those lodges, fused into a single, eternal watcher. A mind built from belief itself, ancient, sentient, and starving. I woke up in my apartment. The hum was gone. The walls were still. The mirrors covered. For a moment I thought it was over. Then I saw the mark on my hand, no longer glowing but carved into my skin permanently. And from the corner of the room, in the faint reflection of my TV screen, my reflection smiled first.